This reading on consumer society comes from Hannah Arendt's book The Human Condition, written in 1958. Keep in mind that she distinguishes between labour and work. Labour for Hannah Arendt is the natural the natural things we have to produce that we consume immediately to keep us alive as a species, and the products of work are a craftsmanship, things that endure as objects that go on and aren't consumed. She calls the humans as labourers, animal laborans, and humans as the makers, homo faber. The inexhaustibility of this labour force corresponds exactly to the deathlessness of the species, whose life process as a whole is also not interrupted by the individual births and deaths of its members. More serious, it seems, is the limitation imposed by the capacity to consume, which remains bound to the individual even when a collective labour force has replaced individual labour power. The progress of accumulation of wealth may be limitless in a socialised mankind, which has rid itself of the limitations of individual property and overcome the limitation of individual appropriation by dissolving all stable wealth, the possession of heaped up and stored away things, into money to spend and consume. We already live in a society where wealth is reckoned in terms of earning and spending power, which are only modifications of the twofold metabolism of the human body. The problem, therefore, is how to attune individual consumption to an unlimited accumulation of wealth. Since mankind as a whole is still very far from having reached the limit of abundance, the mode in which society may overcome this natural limitation of its own fertility can be perceived only tentatively and on a national scale. There the solution seems to be simple enough. It consists in treating all use objects as though they were consumer goods, so that a chair or a table is now consumed as rapidly as a dress, and a dress used up almost as quickly as food. This mode of intercourse with the things of the world, moreover, is perfectly adequate to the way they are produced. The Industrial Revolution has replaced all workmanship with labour, and the result has been that the things of the modern world have become labour products, whose natural fate is to be consumed, instead of work products, which are there to be used. Just as tools and instruments, though originating from work, were always employed in labour processes as well, so the division of labour, entirely appropriate and attuned to the labouring process, has become one of the chief characteristics of modern work processes, that is, of the fabrication and production of use objects. Division of labour, rather than increased mechanisation, has replaced the rigorous specialisation formerly required for all workmanship. Workmanship is required only for the design and fabrication of models, before they go into mass production, which also depends on tools and machinery. But mass production would, in addition, be altogether impossible without the replacement of workmen and specialisation with labourers and the division of labour. Tools and instruments ease pain and effort, and thereby change the modes into which the urgent necessity inherent in labour once was manifest to all. They did not change the necessity itself, they only serve to hide it from our senses. Something similar is true of labour's products, which do not become more durable through abundance. The case is altogether different in the corresponding modern transformation of the work process by the introduction of the principle of the division of labour. Here the very nature of work is changed, and the production process, although it by no means produces objects for consumption, assumes the character of labour. Although machines have forced us into an infinitely quicker rhythm of repetition than the cycle of natural processes prescribed, and this specifically modern acceleration is only too apt to make us disregard the repetitive character of all labouring. The repetition and the endlessness of the process itself put the unmistakable mark of labouring upon it. This is even more evident in the use objects produced by these techniques of labouring. Their very abundance transforms them into consumer goods. The endlessness of the labouring process is guaranteed by the ever-recurrent needs of consumption. The endlessness of production can be assured only if its products lose their use character and become more and more objects of consumption, or if, to put it another way, the rate of use is so tremendously accelerated that the objective difference between use and consumption, between the relative durability of use objects and the swift coming and going of consumer goods, dwindles to insignificance. In our need for more and more rapid replacement of the worldly things around us, we can no longer afford to use them to respect and preserve their inherent durability. We must consume, devour, as it were, our houses and furniture and cars, as though they were the good things of nature which spoil uselessly if they are not drawn swiftly into the never-ending cycle of man's metabolism with nature. It is as though we had forced open the distinguishing boundaries which protected the world, the human artifice, from nature, the biological process which goes on in its very midst, as well as the natural cyclical processes which surround it, delivering and abandoning to them the always threatened stability of a human world. The ideals of Homo faber, the fabricator of the world, which are permanence, stability, and durability, have been sacrificed to abundance, the ideal of the the animal laborans. We live in a labourer's society because only labouring, with its inherent fertility, is likely to bring about abundance. And we have changed work into labouring, broken it up into its minute particles, until it has lent itself to division where the common denominator of the simplest performance is reached in order to eliminate from the path of human labour power, which is part of nature, and perhaps even the most powerful of all natural forces, the obstacle of the unnatural and purely worldly stability of the human artifice. On page 134 of The Human Condition, Hannah Arendt concludes her chapter on labour. The world, the man-made home erected on earth and made of the material which earthly nature delivers into human hands, consists not of things that are consumed, but of things that are used. If nature and the earth generously constitute the condition of human life, then the world and the things of the world constitute the condition under which this specifically human life can be at home on earth. Nature seen through the eyes of the animal laborans is the great provider of all good things, which belong equally to all her children who take them out of her hands and mix with them in labour and consumption, as Locke puts it. The same nature, seen through the eyes of Homo faber, the builder of the world, furnishes only the almost worthless materials as in themselves, whose whole value lies in the work performed upon them. Again, as per Locke, without taking things out of nature's hands and consuming them, and without defending himself against the natural processes of growth and decay, the animal laborans could never survive. But without being at home in the midst of things whose durability makes them fit for use, and for erecting a world whose very permanence stands in direct contrast to life, this life would never be human.